These are the 10 oldest players to have ever played in the NFL. Now, for this specific list, I decided to skip over special teams players because if I did include special teams, they'd be nothing but kickers on this list. Sorry, not sorry. The only times that a kicker will be involved in this list is if they were a hybrid, meaning they were not just a pure kicker and they played a different position while they were in the NFL. But before kicking things off, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to these 3 individuals. Big shout out to Darryl Green, Jerry Rice, and Adam Vinatieri. For Rice and Green, the fact that they made it to 42 at the skill position level is something that is just flat out not heard of. Rice being a wideout and Green being a cornerback. Rice has an argument to be the greatest player of all time. Meanwhile, Green was still one of the fastest players at the age of 42. Adam Vinatieri could be argued is the oldest player to have ever played in the NFL, but that's a little tricky. He did retire in 2021 at 49 years old, but he hadn't played for a team since 2019. Let me know if that qualifies him. With all those honorable mentions out the way, let's go ahead and begin. Coming in at number 10, we have Lou Groza, who was a tackle and a kicker. Groza spent his entire 21 seasons with the Cleveland Browns and won 4 championships during that span. The World War II veteran was arguably the best kicker at this point, as he set field goal records in 1950, 52, and 53. Groza initially retired in 1959 due to a back injury after 13 seasons, but returned in 1961, won another championship in 1964 before retiring again in 1967. Groza was 43 at the time he played his final game, and like I said guys, the only reason he made this list is that even though most of his accomplishments were as a kicker, he was technically an offensive lineman for these guys too, so that's why he qualifies. What a crazy time in the NFL. Can you imagine Justin Tucker playing tackle in today's game? Groza was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1974 and the Browns retired his number. This guy was such a legendary kicker back in the day that his kicking shoes are currently held at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. That's how epic of a career this guy had back in the day. And just for the record guys, I am getting most of my information from the Pro Football Hall of Fame website, so legit profootballhalloffame.com. Coming in at number 9, we have Doug Flutie. Flutie played up until he was 43 years old. He was extremely talented, but he only was 5'10". That was not the norm back in the day. Drafted by the Rams in the 11th round, he was also selected to the New Jersey Generals of the USFL, and actually Flutie decided to play with them, and he played okay, but unfortunately for Flutie, the USFL folded after that season. The following year in 1986, the Rams traded Flutie to the Bears, and the Bears the very next year traded him to the New England Patriots, where he remained primarily a backup. Flutie went on to play in the CFL for the next 8 years after failing to catch on with another NFL team, making a legit name for himself in the process. It was not until the 1998 season when Flutie would make his return to the NFL when he signed to the very QB needy Bills at the time. Keep in mind, they were so needy they turned to a 5'10" Doug Flutie who was already 36. But they must have seen something because he immediately made an impact as he earned his first and only Pro Bowl nod in 1998, as well as Comeback Player of the Year. A shocking twist happened in 1999 after guiding the team to the playoffs. Flutie was controversially benched before the playoff game. A big reason why people don't talk about this controversy is that this game is better known for another reason. Man, these Bills fans cannot catch a break. Flutie was released after the 2000 campaign. He went on to sign with the Chargers in 2001 and was actually their starter, but he finished 5-11. In his final season, he signed with the New England Patriots in 2004 and was a backup the entire time. He was 43 at the time of his retirement, and he finished with a 38-28 record and a respectable 86-68 touchdown to interception ratio. Coming in at number 8, we have offensive lineman Ray Brown. Drafted by the Cardinals in 1986, he became a bit of a journeyman throughout his entire career. After 2 years with the Cardinals, he had stints with Washington for about 6 years, then another 6 years with the San Francisco 49ers, 2 years with the Lions, and then back to Washington for a final 2 years. It doesn't sound like a lot, but those seasons added up to 20 in total. He only made 1 Pro Bowl in 20 seasons, and fair credit to him, he made it in 2001 at 39 years old. Coming in at number 7, we have Vinny Testaverde at aged 44. Testaverde was the #1 overall pick back in 1987 to the Tampa Bay Bucks, and although he did not per se have a Hall of Fame career, he did have a long one. He was labeled a bust during his time with the Bucks. Lowlights included that in 1989, he had 13 touchdowns to 35 interceptions. That is second all-time for a season. And just a little tease, number 1 is on this list too. There's something about age and throwing interceptions that go hand in hand, guys. He had a stint with the Cleveland Browns turned Baltimore Ravens from 1993 to 1998 and had some decent years, even made it to the Pro Bowl in 1996. He went on to play with the New York Jets in 1998 and actually flourished in his hometown, making the Pro Bowl in his first year with Gang Green.
Vinny and the Jets! Vinny and the Jets! Vinny and the Jets! Vinny! Come on, Vinny!
There were great years for the Jets, but the end was near for the then 37-year-old when the Jets drafted Chad Pennington in 2000. Testaverde gave them every reason, though, to keep Chad on the bench. He was able to keep Pennington away for about 2 years before he finally began to struggle in the 2002 season. Ultimately, Testaverde was let go after the 2003 season. Over the next 4 years, he had stints with the Cowboys, the Jets a second time, the Patriots, and the Carolina Panthers in 2007. It's worth noting that Vinny threw a touchdown with each of these teams in each year. This would result in Vinny Testaverde throwing a touchdown in 21 consecutive seasons. Despite all of the success and the longevity of his career, he's still controversially not in the Hall of Fame. Some people do argue for him to be part of it, but I do believe that his initial stint with the Bucs is what is hindering him from becoming a Hall of Famer. His final stats include a 90 and 123-1 record, 275 touchdowns to 267 interceptions, and 46,233 pass yards. What do you guys think? Does Vinny belong in the Hall of Fame? I don't believe so. Coming in at number 6, we have Warren Moon at age 44. Although Moon was eligible to play in 1978, he ended up joining the CFL Edmonton Eskimos. He went on to prove his worth in the CFL, winning 5 straight Grey Cup championships. He was picked up by the Oilers following his stint in the CFL and had very up and down years until the 1986 season, where he finally broke out. In 1989, he signed a 5-year, $10 million deal, which was the highest in the league at the time, and he followed it up with another record-breaking 1990 season. Warren Moon's time with the Oilers was great, especially in the early 90s, although he was the quarterback for the Oilers team that blew the biggest lead ever. But don't worry, just be patient. In time, all records are meant to be broken. With tensions rising against the front office, Moon was traded to the Minnesota Vikings in 1994 and did have 2 good years with them, but in year 3 in 1996, he was injured with a broken collarbone, and with Brad Johnson looking good, Minnesota opted for Johnson to remain the starter. He was signed by the Seattle Seahawks in 1997, and guess what? He made the Pro Bowl in 97. He had a final stint with the Kansas City Chiefs in 1999 as a backup and retired after the 2000 season. Moon was the first player to be inducted in the CFL and NFL Hall of Fame, and he might be one of the most underrated quarterbacks of all time. Off-the-field issues have kept people from talking about him more often than he deserves. At number 5, we have another quarterback in Steve DeBerg. Drafted in 1997 by the Cowboys, he played with the Niners, the Broncos, the Bucks, the Chiefs, the Bucks a second time, the Dolphins, the Falcons, and was a solid backup to below average starting quarterback in the NFL. Fun fact about Steve, he was the quarterback during the Thanksgiving Leon Lett game against the Cowboys. If you know your football, you may know about this game.
Leon Lett! No!
Steve retired after the 1994 season, but returned in 1998 at age 44. He even started in place of an injured Chris Chandler, making him the 3rd oldest quarterback to ever play. Steve retired for good following the Falcons' loss against the Broncos in the Super Bowl. His final stats include over 34,000 passing yards and a 196 to 204 touchdown to interception ratio. Coming in at number 4, we have John Nesser. Born in 1876, he was the older brother of the famous Nesser brothers. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The Nesser family was a football family who helped popularize football. Being the oldest brother, John was the cornerstone for this particular family that played and founded the Columbus Panhandles, a team that you may never have heard of, who began in the Ohio League in 1907. The Columbus Panhandles went on to join the NFL when the league was created in 1920. Big brother John is 44 at this point for those keeping track. John went ahead and retired after the 1921 season as the team folded the following year. It kind of makes you wonder if the team hadn't folded, if he would have still kept going. Sadly, John would pass away 10 years later at the age of just 55 in 1931. Coming in at number 3, we have another stud born in the 1800s. This is Bobby Marshall. Marshall actually started out playing baseball and additionally did track, wrestling, ice hockey, and boxing before he actually took up football. He joined the league in the inaugural season in 1920 with the Rock Island Independence. What a time to be alive, the Rock Island Independence. And keep in mind, during this inaugural season, Bobby was 40 at the time. A special note about Bobby Marshall was that he was one of the first 2 African American players to play in the NFL. He went on to play with the Minneapolis Marines and the Duluth Kellys of all teams before retiring in 1926 at the age of 45. According to Terry McConnell, who wrote a book on Bobby Marshall, Bobby actually played football until he was 56. He died at the age of 78, fulfilling many dreams that I'd say many of us still hold today. Alright guys, this may be the name you guys have been waiting for, but coming in at number 2, we have the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. Brady at age 45 as of my recording, has retired for the second time and apparently for good. I don't need to spend too much time on Brady as you guys already know his story. Drafted by the Patriots in 2000 in the 6th round. In a game where Drew Bledsoe goes down, he guides the Patriots to their first Super Bowl and he never looks back. He spends the next 20 years guiding the Patriots to a total of 6 Super Bowl titles. At the age of 42, he would take his talents to maybe not South Beach, but he took his talents to Tampa Bay and went on to win his 7th Super Bowl, which is more than any team has in their entire history. And if you think Tom Brady was slowing down, think again. In 2022, at age 45, he still broke the record for most pass attempts and most completions in an NFL season. Like I said, Brady said he was done for good, but if he did come out of retirement, he would need to play in the NFL 3 years from now to pass number 1. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have number 1, the oldest player to ever play in the NFL. We have George Blanda. George began his career in 1949, drafted in the 12th round by the Chicago Bears. He played as both their quarterback and he became the starting QB in 1953, but an injury led him to be benched again. In 1958, Blanda actually retired because the Bears only wanted to use him as a kicker, but George wanted to play quarterback. He would return to the gridiron in 1960 in the startup league known as the AFL. You might have heard of them. During his first 2 years, the Oilers were 2-time champions. And guess what? Blanda was their quarterback. It's not to say that it was all sunshine and rainbows for George in his career. To this day, he holds the record for most interceptions in NFL history in a season at a shocking 42 in 1962. And people want to make fun of Jameis Winston for that 30 for 30 year. He was later signed by the Raiders in 1967 to be a backup quarterback and also their kicker. His Raiders would actually defeat the Oilers 40-7 in the AFL championship game that year. So good on him, he was a 3-time champ in the AFL. He remained a backup quarterback for the final few years, but still remained the kicker up until the 1975 season. And guys, to put that into perspective, in 1949, when George Blanda began his career, he was playing with the likes of Sammy Baugh. Yes, the guy with the leather helmet. By the time he was done in 1975, he was playing with the likes of Walter Payton. And if you just look at the numbers, he played in four different decades. George Blanda finished his career with 236 touchdowns to 277 interceptions. Additionally, he had a 47.7 completion percentage and finished with just under 27,000 passing yards. You know, now that I'm reading these numbers, maybe the Bears were onto something. But, you know, what do I know? He finished his career kicking-wise, having an extra point percentage of 98.3, but a whoppingly questionable 52.4% as far as field goals made were concerned. But look, I haven't done any research. Maybe 52.4 back in the day was actually pretty solid. I have no idea. But there you go. That's my list. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's something I said wrong or incorrectly. And let me know if somebody will play longer or play beyond the age of 48. If you like this sort of content, please like and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,500 subs. If you found the hidden Tom Brady head, please comment a timestamp below. And if you're correct and you're the first one, I will pin you in the comment section below. I thank you guys every single time for your support. And if there's a topic you want me to cover in the NFL, and if I use it, I'll give you a shout out when the video comes up. Until next time, y'all. Shaboy!
Perfect.